Audi weren't the first in the luxury EV space, but Audi were the first to make a luxury EV that could be your only luxury car. Back when the e-tron was launched 3 years ago, there were only two other rivals, and the e-tron, it had better ground clearance, better comfort, better space, better daily livability and usability. And that's why we call the e-tron our pick in that segment. But that was then. Today, the segment is packed. BMW are here in force. Mercedes has more electric offerings. There's Volvo. There is even the Kia EV6 and the Hyundai Ioniq 5. So there is no dearth of expensive electric vehicles. So does the e-tron still make sense? And that's why Audi is back in force with the update to the e-tron. And the main headline is the Q8 prefix. So the e-tron is now called the Q8 e-tron. It has got mild updates to the exterior, mild updates to the interior, incremental improvements to the battery pack, to the range, to the performance, to the way it rides and handles. Does the Q8 e-tron still get our vote as the best luxury electric SUV in this segment? That's what we're going to find out in this video, and stick around because we are giving away one RS Q e-tron Dakar scale model. Watch the video till the end for the question, and don't forget to hit that like button, share this video with like-minded enthusiasts, and of course stay subscribed to the Evo India channel because we're going to start by going full send in the Q8 e-tron. The big exterior update is obviously this new Audi logo. It's now a 2D logo, no chrome. The grille has also been revamped. It is typically Audi in the shape. It is of course blanked out because this is an electric car, but some louvers open to let in cooling air for the E-components behind it. The bumper has been reprofiled. This masking for the grille, you can also option that in gloss black, and that contrasts really well with the brighter colors. The bumper has also been reprofiled, so have the headlamps. These headlamps are digital matrix LED lights, so it projects shapes also in the night or early in the morning when you switch it on. So it projects that onto either the road or the wall ahead of it. It also has headlamp washers. So small changes. It looks like an e-tron, but it has clearly been updated also. It also looks a bit fresh. In profile, the Q8 e-tron continues with 20-inch wheels, but these are now cool looking wheels. Audi have heard your comments about their choice, their selection of wheel designs for India. Most of y'all have commented not so positively on it. So now it gets cooler looking 20-inch wheels. And the other change is this Audi and the model name that is etched in the pillar. Otherwise, profile more or less the same. And here, air suspension, it has been raised to its maximum height. Plenty of ground clearance. And finally, on the rear, the new interpretation of the Audi 4 rings. The model name in this blacked out script. You have e-tron etched on the bottom of the bumper. The same full width LED tail lamps with matrix indicators, all of that continues. So again, it looks like an e-tron, like the e-tron that we've seen for the past 3 years, with slight subtle tweaks. The hardware remains unchanged, but there are tweaks to the chassis control systems. So the electronic chassis control, the adaptive air suspension, the ESC, even the steering has been tweaked. This progressive steering, it is 10% quicker, and there is a 10% reduction in the steering input, and that delivers a more precise driving experience. The bigger difference that you notice though is the way it rides down the highway at a triple-digit speed. So the dampers, they have been stiffened up by 10%, and that leads to a reduction in the pitch and roll. Mainly, you notice less vertical movement, so it stays more planted, far smoother down the highway, and the noise isolation, it is just phenomenal. I'm doing 82 kilometers per hour now, legal speeds. There is no wind noise to be heard. The glass, it is acoustic glass, so you can barely hear anything from the outside. The powertrain isolation is brilliant. This is a really relaxing way to drive. And then you step on it, and the turn of speed is just shockingly easy, shockingly rapid. It is unbelievable how easily the Q8 e-tron can chew up the miles. You don't even notice how fast the miles are just going by. It feels planted and stable. It gives you so much of confidence. I can see the car ahead moving, pitching over those dips on the overbridges. But the Q8, it just stays smooth and silent. But of course, this is a very heavy car. And you notice that when there are sharp dips in the road, so you hit that hard and then you get thrown up a bit. So unlike an ICE Q8 that we know, the older ICE Q8, this does not stay as planted over those sharp ridges, sharp cuts in the road. That gives it a proper jolt, and that's where you feel the weight of all the battery packs under the floor pan. Overtaking ease in the Q8 e-tron, effortless. You just breathe on the throttle. You don't even have to step all the way through on throttle and whoop, you just go past. We talk about luxury cars leaving you in a fresher state of mind at the end of the journey than when you started the journey. It's the same with this Q8 e-tron. It's effortless. In terms of the equipment also, out on the highway, you will notice that it doesn't have forward collision warning, but it has lane keep assist, it has adaptive cruise control. So stuff that you could possibly use out on Indian highways that has been loaded onto the Q8 e-tron. But you don't get those virtual mirrors, which we experienced when we drove the same car in Lanzarote in Spain. You get regular wing mirrors, and frankly speaking, those regular wing mirrors work far better than those virtual mirrors on the doors. 4 years of advancement in cell technology means that Audi, they've been able to squeeze in 20% more lithium-ion cells into the existing battery pack. The motors, they now use 14 instead of 12 coils, and that delivers more torque when you need it and also better efficiency. And speaking of efficiency, when you're just cruising down the highway, the front motor also disengages to improve efficiency, and the overall net effect is a 50-kilometer increase in range, and that is for both the e-tron 50 as well as the e-tron 55. Power goes up to 402 bhp, torque to 664 Newton meters. That's on the 55 variant. You get a 0 to 100 sprint in 5.6 seconds. Now, the acceleration from standstill is quick, but it's not neck-snappingly quick. But once you get going, the ease with which it pulls up, the instantaneous torque responses, it makes the e-tron really, really rapid, effortlessly quick. You just make overtakes without even thinking. You think and you're gone. It's that quick. Gaps that normally would seem too tight is just like nice wide open gaps because you just dart into it so quickly. I've always maintained that electric motors work really well for luxury cars because what do you want in a luxury car? You want silence, you want peace and quiet, you want effortlessness. And an EV, an e-powertrain, it delivers that much better than combustion engines. Of course, combustion engines have all that character, which we love. But an electric car is supposed to corset occupants and effortlessly munch miles or do your city commuting. And the e-tron will do that really, really well. Especially because it gets adaptive suspension as standard. So the air suspension, you can raise it, you can lower it. So when you're going fast on the highway, it goes down by around 25 millimeters, which improves the aerodynamics, which in turn improves the range. And speaking about the range, now Audi also claims that they've tweaked the regeneration on the Q8 e-tron so that 90% of your braking is handled by regen. So you are only touching the brakes when you absolutely need to come to a complete stop. But otherwise, when you're cruising, you lift off the, okay, you can't call it the gas pedal, you lift off the accelerator, it slows down, you can use the paddles to increase the level of regen. And because 90% of braking is handled by regen, that also contributes to an increase in range. So like I said, on the 55 e-tron, the range goes up by 32% to 600 kilometers. This gets the 114 kilowatt hour battery pack Audi will also offer the 50 e-tron in India, and the 50 e-tron gets the earlier e-tron's 95 kilowatt hour battery pack. So the range has also gone up on the 50 e-tron. So overall, range has improved, the performance has improved, the dynamics have improved. This is lovely to drive. In a bid to inject more thrill of driving into the Q8 e-tron, Audi have stiffened up the steering by 20%. This is allied to a stiffer front axle lateral control arm bush, which has gone up by a factor of 1.5. The responsiveness has improved by 10%. Now, stiffening up the steering by 20% doesn't mean that the steering feels very heavy. Even when you are doing tight three-pointed turns, when you're maneuvering it, it is easy. But that net effect has been to make the Q8 e-tron maybe not a little bit more involving, but a little bit more dynamically focused. The ESC has also been slackened a bit so that it doesn't intervene as aggressively as it used to in the past. So you get a slight bit of movement before ESC cuts in, which overall just makes you more involved in the driving experience. You tend to enjoy driving the Q8 e-tron a little bit more than the earlier e-tron, and we spent a lot of time with the e-tron. We've long-term tested both the regular SUV as well as the Sportback body style. Personally speaking, I prefer the styling of the regular SUV, but this is all a matter of personal preference, so you might like what you like, so you're free to form your own opinions on that. But coming to the point is that I've driven the e-tron plenty, and the Q8 e-tron, even though this is a facelift, the updates are small, 10% here, 10% there, 20% at the max, but the net effect is to make a much nicer car, a much nicer SUV that you can use as your daily, that you can use for traveling out on the highway, more range, so that headache is sorted out, effortless performance, excellent ground clearance. So as standard, it has a ground clearance of 176 mm. You can also raise the suspension by a further 30 or 40 millimeters. So plenty of ground clearance. You can even take it off-roading. No Q8 e-tron owner will ever take their electric SUV off-roading. But if you want to, it has an off-road mode, so you can go out on the trails. So it can do a lot of things. It can be the only luxury car that you will ever need to own. And particularly if you're in the southern parts of India, we did that K2K drive. And what we noticed was in the south, the charging infrastructure, the high-speed charging infrastructure is really sorted. And everywhere across the country, more and more chargers are being installed. Using an electric car as your only luxury car, it's not impossible. The brake feel also has been made very natural. This is not something that I noticed earlier. It's only after a couple of hours behind the wheel that I've noticed it. And the reason I've noticed it is because I did not need to speak about the brakes. Normally you speak about the brakes only when you find a problem with it, but this just feels natural. So the transition from electric regeneration to the friction brakes has been made so smooth, so progressive, that you don't notice the steps, you don't notice the difference in the feel. You can brake smoothly. So suppose if your driver is driving it and you're sitting in the passenger seat, your head won't be tossing around, you won't be grumbling at your driver. These are small improvements, but it's these small incremental differences that actually enhance the driving experience. And then you use the paddles out here for adjusting your regen levels. The Q8 e-tron, like the earlier e-tron, it also has a range mode. So suppose you're running dangerously low on range, you stick it in that range mode, the aircon efficiency reduces, it goes down on its suspension to improve the aero, and it will try and take you to the nearest charger. Speaking about charging, with 400 volt technology, the Q8 e-tron can ultra rapid charge at speeds of up to 170 kilowatts. That's on the 55 e-tron, and it juices up the 114 kilowatt hour battery pack from 0 to 80% in 31 minutes. On the 50 e-tron, you get 0 to 80% in 28 minutes. Like the exterior, the updates to the interior are minor. It's all small incremental. So basically this is more or less same as the earlier e-tron. The steering wheel is the same. You get the typical Audi 3-screen layout. So the digital cockpit, the infotainment, as well as another screen where you can even write your destination. So you can scribble your destinations into the inbuilt navigation. But obviously you'll be using Google Maps more often than not. And for that, you will have to connect your iPhone, or if you're using an Android phone, you will have to connect Android Auto via the cable. It still doesn't have wireless connectivity. And that honestly is the only negative, the only flaw that I can point out in the cabin. You get a new finish for the seats, so they feel and look a little bit more premium. And now you can also option massagers. So there's this button out here. You have your wave, pulse, stretch, rest, back, shoulder, activation, revitalization. You can increase or decrease the intensity, and both the front guys have it. So unlike the A8, for instance, where only the driver and the rear two passengers get massagers, on the Q8 e-tron, both the front seats get massagers, optional massagers. You also get this nice big panoramic sunroof. So in the monsoons, when the sun is not harsh, you keep the shade open, never the roof open, but the shade open. It lets in a lot of light into the cabin. This, even though it's a very small incremental improvement over the e-tron, apart from the lack of wireless connectivity, there is absolutely nothing to fault. It feels well built, quality is great. But also, now since we've seen this layout on all the Audis, there is also nothing that will make you go, wow! There's nothing that will make you fall off your chair, so to speak. It's nice, but it's not. Get off the highway, hit these winding interior roads, and the Q8 continues to impress. So everything that I talked to you about, the steering being 10% quicker, being 20% more weight, more direct, all of that makes the Q8 e-tron come a little bit more alive when the roads get a little bit more challenging. Of course, you can feel all that weight, 2.6 tons of it, but all that weight is low down. The center of gravity is low, so it can go around corners at some serious pace. And because the ESC now has a little bit more leeway, you get a little bit more movement. You can play with it a little bit more. And then at the apex, you step on it and it just grips and goes. The way it fires around corners is surprising. And because the e-motors, they mask speed so well, you don't have that sensation of sound, of shifting gears, you're not going down the gears. All of that has been removed from the equation. So you reach corners that much faster. You go through corners that much faster, that much harder. And all those earlier indicators of going around corners very fast, all that noise, all that drama, maybe a bit of the vibrations from the ice, all of that, since it's not there, you don't realize how fast you're going around corners. It's only when the cameraman shows you footage of the Q8 e-tron going around the corner and you can hear the tires squealing. From inside, because of this acoustic glass, you don't even hear much of the tires squealing. But on the footage, you can hear the tires squealing. You can see the body roll. You can see the way the Q8 e-tron is working. That's when you realize, wow, this is fast. And you can see the sheer speed at which it is going around these corners. I have to say, effortlessly. It's not that I would recommend an electric car for the thrill of driving, at least not yet. But in this space, what else do you get? Like, for instance, a Q7. This actually has better dynamics and is more composed than a Q7. This is nearly on par with the Q8. The Q8 obviously has that grunt of the V6 petrol, that noise, that ebb and flow, that character. But if you push both of them through these similar winding roads, the Q8 e-tron will effortlessly keep up with the ICE Q8. And that is a sporty SUV. So, cut a long story short, by correlation, the Q8 e-tron is a sporty electric SUV which does comfort and isolation and refinement and ease of driving very, very well. Here's how you can win this gorgeously detailed RS Q e-tron scale model. It's so beautiful, you can even see the fire extinguisher in there. Anyway, let us know, where did the RS Q e-tron finish in the Abu Dhabi Desert Challenge in 2022 and who was the driver? Let us know in the comments and you could be one of the lucky guys to win this beautiful racing Dakar scale model. A 10% improvement there, 15% here. Basically, the Q8 e-tron is a nip and tuck over the earlier e-tron. But fact also is that the e-tron was so well sorted out to start with, so well suited to the unique conditions that we find out here in India, that the Q8 e-tron, it takes everything that we know and love about our favorite luxury electric SUV and moves it up a notch. I really like this. I think this is so well suited to everything that the luxury EV buyer will want out here in India. Now, we don't know the prices yet. The launch is going to be on the 18th of next month. Expect it to go up by 5 to 10%. Obviously, prices are going up, but still, compared to the rest of its rivals, it remains keenly priced and also well suited to everything that the luxury EV customer demands.